My favorite quote that helped me during my healing process was, when it comes to the story of your life, let no one else hold the pen. And when you're in that manipulative relationship, when you're in possibly a very closed-minded family structure or a controlled environment that doesn't allow for openness of ideas and the flow, that is the number one thing to guard yourself against. Is we all are unique. We all have that unique blueprint. We're born with, our fingerprint is unique. And so is your energetic body. Your life's purpose and what you're here to do and why you're here on this earth is unique. So no one can say, oh, you can't do that. Someone else has done that. No one else has done what you're here to do. Whatever ideas and motivations you have, that's for you to write your own journey and your own story. And that no one can take that away from you. They'll try. And this is why you must guard your hearts and your minds against those who will try, who will manipulate you, who will lock you into a box and say, this is the only way that this is going to work. That's not how evolution works. That's not how technology works. All of our inventions in the world have been from people who have said, no, you can't define me. I'm going to be innovative. I'm going to create what I want to create. I have this idea. I know it can be done, and they do it. So don't let those to discourage you from your mission, from what you're here to do. And if you don't know why you're here and what you need to do, it's a process. It's a journey. We don't ever arrive at it in this moment. It takes our whole life. But I can say that I have found my path and a lot of clarity on what direction I should go after being mind manipulated, after being in such a controlling environment as a child and not knowing, having the freedom once you're out, it's hard to know. Oh, now I have no idea. For so long, I've been told what to do, told what to believe, told how to act.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
Hello and welcome to Health in the Real World. I'm here today with Raven Scott. Raven's the author of The Empath and the Narcissist, a healing guide for people pleasers. Raven, how you doing today?
Good, thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Now, the title is very, very hooking, I think. The Empath and the Narcissist. The first question I asked you was, are these like two people in the relationship? And they are. First, we'll go into the book, but give us a little bit of a background about you and your history and what led you up to writing this book in the first place.
Yeah, I am a survivor of a narcissist abusive relationship. And it was a perfect storm in my childhood. I had a beautiful childhood. I was very much loved and spoiled. I was also sheltered and was in a Christian community, a very tight-knit Christian community that didn't really believe in like the worldly, quote unquote, things like evolution and science, like more of the touchy, like different topics. So I was raised to believe literally like everything, the answer was in the Bible. And so as I grew up, I embraced it. There was some trauma that I write about in my book that I went through, and it made me dive even deeper into that Christian world that really gave me comfort and solace and focus. And also to try and not repeat the same pattern of my sister. She moved out really young and caused so much shame and trauma in the family, where again, if their beliefs were a little bit different, it wouldn't have been so traumatic. But it was a perfect storm. I was an empty canvas, a blank slate, as my abuser actually admitted in the end that he chose me for that specific reason. I was very malleable. I was vulnerable. I was very caring. I believed anything. He then, as we met through church, we got together, we were just friends, and then it's almost like the grooming process. And then we became romantic partners, just like by default. He kissed me, and I was like, oh my gosh. The other thing in my book I write about is I had a bully, so my self-worth was at 0. So I was like, somebody actually likes me, let alone kissed me. And I felt like he was on such a pedestal. Like, his family was beautiful. He was very handsome. And so I felt really lucky because I thought that I really wouldn't ever find true love or deserving love, or I just didn't think I was worth any romantic relationship. So it was a perfect storm to set me up to have him up on the pedestal, to look up to him, and he then became my savior. We left church, and I dismissed all of that once I found out about evolution and all that's up in the cosmos and the stars. And I was really mad that I was lied to. So then he became my savior, and I latched onto him. Everything that he said was now my new gospel and truth. And that was just another way to control me. It was just another situation where I was like, from one control situation to a...
So was that relationship part of the reason why you shifted in your worldview and got out of the hardcore Christianity, or did that happen prior and then you found the relationship?
No, we were friends. We volunteered at a church camp event a whole summer, and we were in the same youth group. We were in the same friend group. And as we were going into college, that's when he started questioning things and wanted to go his separate way. And then that's when I also learned he actually told me about evolution and all of the amazing things that are out there in the planet system and the stars and the cosmos. And it was just, he shared that with me. I could have learned that from anywhere, but I stayed within my small school and I never really learned that. So he taught me that. And I really, to this day, I'm obsessed with astrology and the stars, and I'm obsessed with science stuff. So that was something that happened while I was with him together. It was almost maybe he did strategically plant that seed. Oh, she knows nothing about this. Let me just give her this, and then she's going to really love me for that. And I did. Yeah. And so we left the church together.
Okay. So the title of your book, again, The Empath and the Narcissist, A Healing Guide for People Pleasers. I want to get into definitions a little bit. So the empath, let's start with the empath. What does that person look like? What are their behavior traits?
Another way that you could call an empath is a highly sensitive person. I've always been called sensitive. My emotions fluctuate like crazy. I know now from my human design chart why, but I am an amplifier of energy and I feel very intensely. And most of the time, especially when you're younger, you don't know how to control those emotions, so they would come out like fire. And just lots of different things affect you as an empath. You get really exhausted when you're out in public, right? Go shopping or a party. Maybe you may feel like you're an introvert because when you come back, you're really exhausted. You don't get that buzz of energy high. And it's just because you're so sensitive. You're absorbing so many different people's energies and emotions. And so typically you're looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. You have a very positive view on the world. You give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And if you're not careful and you don't guard your heart and your mind and have an analytical curiosity to your positivity, you can certainly be a victim to someone who can manipulate your good intentions and your good mindset.
That's a good segue, that manipulation. Somebody who could manipulate that good intention. The next person in the title is the narcissist. So yeah. What drives the narcissist? I definitely resonate with being an empath and but the narcissist, I don't get them. Like, why?
No.
Who are they?
Aliens to us, yet we're so attracted to them. I know. What really turned a corner for me in my healing journey after I left the abusive relationship, I had been married, had kids, is I learned one day that narcissist behavior is a conditioned state. It is affected from either childhood trauma or zero emotional availability from a parent, or the parent themselves is narcissistic. So with mirror neurons, we mimic and we become just like our parent who is narcissistic. And typically it's a survivor mechanism. I'm not receiving love or attention, so I'm going to start to just focus on myself. And so what happens is all that's conditioned through childhood. Now the other scenario is you could almost become like a partner to your parent. Let's say it's a son, the father leaves, and so it's a single mom and a son. And so now he takes on that man of the household role, and she considers him to provide for emotional need. And this can happen with daughter, mother, like doesn't matter, any type of combination. So the parent is looking to the child to provide emotional needs that also can generate like a very extremely spoiled child. They have like weird bonding, like they don't really understand how to emotionally bond with people in a healthy way. So all of this, there's lots of different ways, but essentially it's conditioning. Gets locked in by 18. And the true definition of a narcissist is they have an overinflated sense of self. They have zero empathy for others. And their number one goal is always to receive comfort, supply of energy, get what they want, and use and abuse and manipulate others to get what they want. And they don't care. That's pretty much the main thing with narcissists.
Got it. And so it would make sense that personality trait would really mesh well with somebody who's more of a people pleaser, because they want that person to get what they want, also because they're a people pleaser and they'll bend over backwards.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned childhood trauma. Somebody who finds themselves in a relationship where they think this sort of a dynamic might be playing out, any recommendations for that person to maintain their sanity and their health and their boundaries?
Yeah. So there's a lot. There's a lot to it once you start learning. But the main thing is that narcissists play the victim. At the beginning of the relationship, it's a term called love bombing, is so they give you like over intense amount of love. They literally like courting you like times 100. Flowers, roses, vacations, all the things. I don't know if you've seen the Tinder Swindler, like that is a narcissist.
Yeah,
He's
I saw
taking
that.
them right on all these trips and
Yep.
whining and dining and all these things. And so you think, oh my gosh, like I've hit the jackpot. This is so amazing. Like I'm really loved. I'm seen and heard. And also part of the formula is us highly sensitive people typically are shushed a lot, right? Like you're just too much, just stop. So when have all this affection, it feels really good because it's been a long time since we've been seen and heard. And so they do all this stuff to reel you in, they lock you in, they put you as a trophy on their shelf, and then they start to demoralize you, to control you. Like, oh, what, and they'll say it backhanded marks, like women should have their nails done all the time, or women should always be skinny, or all these things, whatever their standard is. And it's always very superficial, not emotionally in-depth values. So you start to then feel like you need to please them. Well, because they loved you so much, they did all these things for you. So now you feel like you owe them. They're really good at owing. Oh gosh, I owe him for this. All the time I'd be like, oh, he took me out in his nice car and we had dinner. Now I owe him fun, alcohol, sex in the bed, fun. Like I always felt it was like a payment. And afterwards I really got triggered whenever I saw a movie with a hooker or anything sex or rape. For me, that was crazy triggering because that was like emotionally the bartering chip that he had. And that was our exchange, the emotional exchange. So when you're in this scenario, they want drama. They want that attention. They want the supply you're giving them is to cut off the supply. That's as best as I can say. So if you can't leave right away because you have different attachments, children, what have you, need to emotionally cut ties. Like there's a certain method called the gray rock method where when you interact with a narcissist, you're like emotionally not available. You're like, oh, okay. Like you just don't get excited and you don't get pulled into their drama. And they'll try because they know all the phrases, they know all your buttons, and they'll push it to try and make an argument or create drama. And you just have to really like get into your Zen state and not let that trigger you, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to trigger you. They're trying to get that supply of their emotional bonding is unhealthy. So the way that they relate to other people is through drama and unhealthy attachments. So you just have to cut those emotions out as best as you can.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then you alluded to before to your human design. You were talking about that earlier and how that has really enlightened you as far as why you got into this relationship in the first place. Can you talk a little bit about that, the human design chart?
Yeah. So the human design chart is similar to your astrology natal chart. So you put in your birth information, your location, and it pulls all these different systems and it creates this like human body graph. And it has 9 different centers. It has a whole bunch of numbers. It has a whole bunch of all the planet symbols. And you're like, look at it and you're like, this is alien. I don't know what this is, but it's amazing. It shares with you your energy blueprint. So, just for an example, this is very similar to this empath narcissist kind of magnetism, like getting together, is an open center. Let's say the solar plexus center is emotional with the defined center. When those two are together, they're magnetized. And the good thing about that is that you can be like a piece to the puzzle, you can complete each other or work as a great team. The bad part about that is if the person who has that defined emotional center is unhealthy, their cycle is always going to be about them and not reciprocating empathy with you. And, oh, how are you feeling? Great. How are you feeling? It's always about them. How are they feeling only? And so those who have that open solar plexus tend to people please because you're amplifying how the other person feels and it's uncomfortable. Like it's almost like an electric guitar with the amp and it sounds off and the amp is too high, you're too close to the amp and then it goes, oh, it makes this horrible sound. That's that
Mm-hmm.
white center where you're like, I feel this so uncomfortable. It's a horrible sound, it's a horrible feeling. And so you do everything you can to appease the other person, which is not healthy, but that's what the narcissist wants and that's what they're used to. So you're constantly doing that and it's just a vicious cycle. So again, the whole emotional cutoff, you have to just go, that's not mine. That's not my emotion. That's yours. And as I learned all these different elements about myself in the human design chart, my healing like exponentially grew, went faster. My self-development growth shot through the roof because I knew myself so intimately. I could know why I was doing these things. I could know why I was influenced this way or and also we all have flaws. So self-development is to allow us to grow. For me, I have a certain type of head center where it can be very fixed and it's not very gentle. So I would always get into arguments with people in the past about one idea, which is similar to
Mm-hmm.
like being that very devoted Christian. And I'd be like, this is how it is. And there's only one way and everyone should do it like this. Otherwise, they're just horrible people. And so when I learned that, I was like, oh, okay, I can relax now. Not everyone should be believing one idea. There's lots of different ideas out in the world. And yeah, it's just really helped.
Wow, that's very interesting. And what I was going to say lastly, narcissistic abuse victim is the label, right, that you first applied.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not like physical abuse where that's actually illegal, right? It's not, there's
Mm-hmm.
not like there's not a law about narcissistic abuse.
Right.
However, how would people who are in this situation, I'm sure feel very similar, trapped, right? Like you said, I think it seems like your book will do a very good job as far as helping people get out of that situation, educating them,
Yeah.
making people know that this is not ideal. This is not great for your self development. Speaking of self development, I like to end each show with a motivational speech where let's put you in front of a university graduation or maybe in a corporate setting and you're the motivational speaker. You're going to give a motivational speech on how you think your listeners, your audience can get the most out of their lives. What are some principles that you would pull from your experience and impart that wisdom with everybody listening?
You know, my favorite quote that helped me during my healing process was when it comes to the story of your life, let no one else hold the pen. And when you're in that manipulative relationship, when you're in possibly a very closed minded family structure or a controlled environment that doesn't allow for openness of ideas and the flow, that is the number one thing to guard yourself against. Is we all are unique. We all have that unique blueprint. We're born with our fingerprint is unique. And so is your energetic body. Your life's purpose and what you're here to do and why you're here on this earth is unique. So no one can say, oh, you can't do that. Someone else has done that. No one else has done what you're here to do. Whatever ideas and motivations you have, that's for you to write your own journey and your own story. And that no one can take that away from you. They'll try. And this is why you must guard your hearts and your minds against those who will try, who will manipulate you, who will lock you into a box and say, this is the only way that this is going to work. That's not how evolution works. That's not how technology works. All of our inventions in the world have been from people who have said, no, you can't define me. I'm going to be innovative. I'm going to create what I want to create. I have this idea. I know it can be done, and they do it. So don't let those to discourage you from your mission, from what you're here to do. And if you don't know why you're here and what you need to do, it's a process. It's a journey. We don't ever arrive at it in this moment. It takes our whole life. But I can say that I have found my path and a lot of clarity on what direction I should go after being mind manipulated, after being in such a controlling environment as a child and not knowing, having the freedom once you're out, it's hard to know. Oh, now I have no idea. For so long, I've been told what to do, told what to believe, told how to act. But for me, I found my guidance through figuring out who I am uniquely, through my human design chart, through knowing myself in my astrological natal chart. There are lots of different ways, even the personality index. If you don't want to get that woo-woo, there's lots of different ways to discover yourself. So invest in yourself. Continue to grow your mindset and to continue to grow your emotional intelligence, and you will do amazing things in life.
Sounds good. Well, this is Raven Scott today on Health in the Real World. Raven, thank you so much for joining us today. How do people get in touch with you? Website, social media, and again, show the book?
Yeah, you can find me at ravenscott.show. That's my website. It has my show on it, blog, and all of my human design talks and teachings. My book is on there as well. It's also on Amazon. And social media, I'm usually on Instagram, Raven Scott Show.
Perfect. Raven, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.